The story of Bridget Bridey Murphy begins in 1735, in a country where a woman like her was never meant to stand a chance. Ireland was ruled under the Penal Laws, a system designed to crush Catholic identity. Women could not testify, could not own land, could not defend themselves in court. A single accusation from a landlord or magistrate could destroy an entire family. Bridey was the daughter of a thatcher, poor, literate, stubborn. She learned to read prayers from her mother and poems from traveling bards. In a world that demanded silence, she had a dangerous habit. She asked questions. And in a time when political fugitives fled through farmlands to escape British patrols, those questions made her a threat. But no one knew then that she would become something far more dangerous to the empire, a woman who refused to die. In the spring of 1735, patrol officers raided a series of farms suspected of hiding rebels. Court fragments suggest one thing clearly: Bridey sheltered someone. A wounded boy, barely 15, his identity lost to time. Some historians believe he was an Irish Catholic messenger. Others argue he was a Protestant runaway escaping an abusive household. No official record confirms it because the page containing her testimony was torn out. But the remaining lines in the ledger reveal one undeniable fact: Bridey refused to name him. She endured questioning, coercion, and a written statement corrected by a clerk. Her silence embarrassed local authorities, who needed a public example to prove their control over rural communities. So they charged her with harboring a rebel, a capital crime under penal law statutes. Bridey Murphy, age 21, was sentenced to die. The royal assizes were swift and unforgiving. Judges were English. Clerks, often pressured by landlords, rewrote testimonies freely. Poor Irish women had no advocates. Bridey's landlord, Lord Hargreaves, submitted a wording statement accusing her of sedition and obstructing Crown officers. Historians suspect he had a simpler motive. Her family owed him 2 years of unpaid rent. Punishing Bridey served both empire and landlord. A young woman's life became administrative convenience. The machinery of British justice turned like a wheel, and Bridey was crushed underneath it until the wheel stopped turning. First death sentence: the gallows. On a wet December morning, she was marched to Gallows Green, where crowds gathered for the grim spectacle. Her hands were bound. A priest whispered a prayer. The executioner pulled the lever. The beam cracked. The rope snapped. Bridey fell. Alive. Gasps erupted. Some cried miracle, others blasphemy. Under Irish tradition, a failed hanging was interpreted as divine intervention. But the magistrate rejected that notion. "Reset the rope," he ordered. The priest refused. The crowd murmured. And for the first time, fear entered the eyes of the men in charge. Bridey was returned to her cell. Second death sentence: the road to Dublin. A week later, they ordered her moved to Dublin for a proper execution. But on the nice road, the prisoner carriage hit a deep rut, overturned, and split its axle. Guards were injured. Bridey, still shackled, crawled out with only bruises. A soldier later wrote, "She should have died twice. Why does she not die?" Third death sentence: the fire. Bridey awaited her final hanging in Dublin Gaol. But before dawn, a fire broke out in the women's wing. Clerks recorded ignition unknown. Bridey was evacuated during the chaos. By morning, she was gone. No sighting, no recapture, no burial record. Only a scratched-out line in the jail transfer ledger: B.M. removed. Terrified officials quietly ended the case. Because how many times could a woman escape death before officials feared the embarrassment more than the crime? Bridey Murphy vanished, and the empire decided she never existed. For centuries, Bridey's story lived only in whispers, songs sung by firesides, fragments repeated in rural taverns. A folk ballad from County Kilkenny tells of the girl the rope refused. Then, in the 1890s, a parish letter surfaced. Father Domacha O'Shea wrote, "A young woman was thrice spared by Providence, and the law could not claim her." Later, historian Maeve O'Riada found a missing page gap in the 1735 Kilkenny court record. The torn edges matched clerical removal, not decay. Another piece appeared in the Dublin Gaol ledger. A faint, overwritten entry marked simply B.M. Each discovery was a spark. Together, they lit a forgotten life back into existence. And the missing page, the torn-out record that once erased her, is now the very reason we know she lived. Bridey Murphy wasn't a queen, a general, or a noblewoman. She was something far more threatening to the empire, an ordinary woman who refused to obey fear. Her 3 escapes weren't miracles. They were moments that exposed the fragility of a system built on silence. She showed that even the poorest woman could disrupt the order simply by surviving. Her story asks us a question. How many other women were erased because they were inconvenient to record? And how many missing pages still lie in forgotten archives waiting to be found? If stories like hers matter to you, stories torn out, rewritten, or silenced, subscribe to help restore the women history tried to erase.